Good morning, every day.
Good morning.
And what an incredible Easter morning this is. Now, this is going to sound a little insignificant. I'll just put it that way. Good morning, Facebook. Good morning, everybody on Zoom. But when I was trying to figure out what I was going to wear today, yesterday, because it never does me any good to try to figure it out any sooner than that. I change my mind too many times. Anyway, I said to Denise, well, with the temperature that they're predicting now, it's hard to tell if it's going to be a cloudy 50 some odd or a sunny 50 some odd. And I can't possibly figure out what I'm going to wear until I get up and see whether it's cloudy or sunny. Well, I can't possibly. That's another way of saying impossible. That it was impossible for me to figure out what I was going to wear until I saw the weather. Now, all month, I'll just remind those of you who have or haven't been here in one way or another, or who will be engaged with this talk later on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. We've been talking about assumptions and other myths that we hang on to. And so every week, we've talked about one of the common mythologies that we may have heard as we were growing up. And we may not have heard that that's impossible, but we may have heard you can't do that. Or you'd be better off spending your time learning a real job. Or one of those, you know. And it occurred to me, because I had chosen That's Impossible as my talk title for today, I don't know, 2 or 3 months ago, that That's Impossible could not apply more perfectly than it does to today. Because there are those of certain faith traditions who don't believe in the resurrection, right? Because it's not logical. How in the world could any one individual move a boulder that I've heard or read was about the size of this room, big, all by himself? How could that happen? It's impossible. Well, there are a lot of things that we think are impossible that have absolutely nothing to do with what's possible. So what I'm really here to talk about, big surprise, is what's possible. Denise addressed it beautifully in her readings this morning, both by quoting Ernest Holmes and Muhammad Ali. We watched a film last night, which I highly recommend, which is Boys in the Boat. If you haven't seen it, it is extraordinary. It happens to be based on a true story of this rowing team, and they were the underlings. They were from Washington University, and they were the juniors. They were the junior team. They weren't even called junior varsity then. And when the coach chose them to go on in competition rather than the varsity team was in shock, because how could he? It's not possible that they could win. They didn't have the experience. It's not possible that they could win. And this was 1936, and what was on the line, if they did win, going forward, was a trip to the Olympics. Well, I'm not spoiling anything to tell you they got to the Olympics, because why make a movie? So they got to the Olympics, and now they're competing not against Princeton and not against Yale, who both had extraordinary rowing teams that they happened to beat the pants off of. They're competing against other countries who have a lot of practice with international competition. So the stakes are much higher. The stakes are much higher. That's all I'm going to tell you about the story, because you really have to see the movie, except for the very last line in the film. One of the rowers is now a grandfather, and his grandson has taken to rowing. And he's still pretty young. And they're walking off together after a day of rowing and being together, and the grandson says, "Someday I want to be one of the 8, the way you were." And he said, "I was never one of 8. We were one." And I was so moved by that statement, because of course they had to be of one mind. It wasn't just being in rhythm and following the coxswain's directions. It was being of one heart. It was being of one purpose. It was being one. And that is what makes it possible for us to call forth, to declare, to affirm for our own life experience whatever in the world we dream. Because we are one. We aren't just one with each other in this room. We are one with all life. And that life has absolutely nothing better to do than to say yes. Maybe you didn't know that that's the only word it knows in any language. Because it doesn't really, talk. At least not in the ways that we think of talking. But yes, to whatever it is that we are focused on, that we are calling forward, that we, let me say this again, that we are focused on. That we are focused on. So sometimes maybe what we're focused on is not so cool. Sometimes what we're focused on is something unwanted. No?
Yes.
5 of you said no. Sometimes what we're focused on is something unwanted. Yes. It's true. Even though we know better, our brain just goes there. So how do we get our brain dialed in to a higher idea? How do we get our brain that may go to, well, that's impossible, or that's what's really likely, because this happened and then that happened and then the other thing happened, and because those things happened, this is the most likely. Well, what I have to say to all of that is, if you say so. Because that's the thing about that one word answer. It's yes to whatever we believe. And if what we're believing in the moment is something unwanted, the answer is still yes. I'm sorry. There's no malice. It's just the way the law works. What law? The law of life. It's the way gravity works. It's the way electricity works. It's the way the laws of nature work. The laws of nature are the laws of life itself. And it never goes against itself. Ever. It never argues with itself, unlike us. It never tries to talk itself into anything, unlike us. It just says, okie dokie. That's what you're focused on. That's what you want, because our focus says what we want. We can give lip service to what we say we want. We can give lip service to what we say we believe. We can give lip service to what we say will be the divine order and outcome. Ta-da! But life is never fooled. Again, I'm sorry. It's never fooled. We're fooling ourselves. We're fooling ourselves by saying, well, this is what I'm creating, this is what I'm participating in, this is the life that I am calling forward for myself, this is the world that I am living in, this is the world that I am giving to, and meanwhile, there's something going on up here going, no, you don't really deserve that. Do you believe you deserve that? What makes you think you deserve that? What makes you think it can be that simple? Now that is a juicy question. What makes you think it can be that simple? Well, if I start at the beginning, which I advise us all to do, if I start at the beginning, I start at the very beginning. Sorry, it happens all the time. Anyway, there's one life. There's one power, there's one presence. It is all life. It is my life. It is our life. If it's all life, it's either all or nothing.
Right.
Really. It's either all or nothing. Okay, so I get that far. So, if it's my life, let me think about this for a minute. If it's my life, that means that there's a connection. There's it somehow lives in me, as me, through me. And somehow I live in it, with it, as it, for it. Somehow, if it's my life, and if it's all life, that's how it works. Because that's the only way it can work, if it is all life. With me so far?
Yes.
All right. So, if it is my life, why in the world would it ever deny itself as me anything? Or as you anything? Why in the world would it deny itself as us anything? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make scientific sense. It doesn't make rational sense. It doesn't make any kind of sense. If it is me, and if it is you, and if it is everything, oh, hi, blossoms on tree. You're new. And if it's everything around us, including the blossoms and the tree, and we think about it withholding or denying anything to us, for us, through us, it doesn't make sense. Because it would be doing that to itself. Right?
Right.
If you've followed me so far, that's right.
Got it.
Okay. Well, then we might ask ourselves, Well, what about too much? Can I claim too much? Can I call forth too much? Can I affirm too much? That's like asking ourselves, can I smile too much? Can I sing too much? Can I enjoy everything around me, like nature's beautiful rhythms and calls? Can I enjoy that too much? And the answer is the same. No. Because that would be placing a limit on this one. So the thing that we are encouraged to be mindful of is where we do that. Where we place limits on life in our mind. Because if we place the limit in our mind to fulfill anything that serves life, that uplifts life, that expands life, that nurtures life, if we have that interruption at the brain level that goes, oh, but wait a minute, that could never happen. That's impossible. Then what needs to happen next is we need to back up. We need to put it in reverse. Beep, 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 beep. And we need to think about what we're thinking about.
Yes.
Because this one, this generous, unceasing, unfailing, constantly embracing and giving one doesn't do that. There are no limits. And when we aren't so busy looking at ourselves and looking at how things haven't happened yet the way we imagined, imagined, expected outcomes, believe it or not, that's a limit. Now, I'm not saying not to have an outcome in mind. That's another whole talk. But to have that be the only way, the only version and vision of that outcome as the only way, that's a limit. Because given the chance, Spirit, the divine, God, the higher power, whatever it is that we feel comfy calling it, it will blow our mind every time if we are open to receive. If we are allowing of its imagination being larger than ours. Because our imagination tends to be tethered to what we already know. Limited. No matter how good it is, it's limited. And how do I know that? Because I know how we think. I know we think in limits. And even though we're getting better, I affirm that we're getting better at expanding those boundaries, there's still the line in the sand somewhere where we come up against that threshold and it's just too much. It's okay. What is really important is to catch what we're doing, how we are participating in this amazing creative process by setting limits. Just to catch that, just to become aware of that, and then ask ourselves, do I really know that that's not possible? Whatever it is. Do I really know? I don't care, no disrespect, I don't care about the authority, real or alleged, of the people who have said this is impossible. You decide. You decide. Wow. Really? I decide? Yep. So you know how I like to give you a little gentle homework. So this week, just for this week, until we see each other next Sunday, just attend to that. Attend to your thoughts. And when you have these harebrained ideas, that say that life is in any way limited, ask yourself, do I really know that to be true? Do I absolutely know that to be true? And see if you can answer that question without referring to something way back in life, whether it happened to you or someone else, that indicated that suggested to your suggestibility that life was limited. Just check it out. No right or wrong. Just check it out. And so it is.
And so it is.